Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at Batteries Not Included.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
that 1987
Opposite six.
heartwarming sci-fi film. And, it's really got it all, doesn't it? We've got these like tiny alien robots right in the middle of New York City, in this kind of gritty urban setting.
Yeah.
But it still manages to be, really heartwarming and kind of hopeful.
Yeah. It's so interesting because it does kind of blend those two seemingly disparate things. You've got
Yeah.
this science fiction element, but then you have this very real world
Right.
setting and these very real world problems that the characters are facing.
Yeah, exactly. So to kind of set the scene for our listeners who maybe haven't seen the film,
Okay.
the movie centers around this group of tenants in this old apartment building in New York City, and they're facing eviction.
Oh,
And so right away you've got this kind of very relatable
right.
conflict, right?
Yes.
So many people have either faced eviction themselves or know someone who has, or just the idea of losing your home.
Absolutely.
It's something that a lot of people can connect to. And just when things seem hopeless for these tenants, and these little flying robots show
Yeah.
up. They're called fix-its, and they start helping the residents.
That's right. And this is where that Spielberg connection really comes into play. Did you know that
Right.
this film was actually originally conceived as an episode
Oh, wow.
for Amazing Stories, Steven Spielberg's anthology series?
That makes so much sense.
Right. So, it kind of makes sense that it eventually evolved into a full-fledged film because it's such a rich concept. But you can still see that touch of Spielberg, that sense of wonder and warmth that
Yeah.
he's so known for.
Yeah, it's like he took a little bit of that, E.T. magic and sprinkled it into this.
Exactly.
Yeah,
A
yeah, yeah.
little bit of fairy dust.
Right.
Yeah.
And speaking of magic, we have to talk about the amazing cast in this film. You've got Hume Cronin and Jessica Tandy,
Yep.
who are married in real life.
Hmm.
They star as Frank and Fay Riley, this elderly couple who are just so full of love and kind of the heart of the
Yeah,
story.
they're the heart and soul of the film, absolutely. And their performances are incredible, especially Tandy's portrayal of Faye, who is struggling with dementia.
Yeah,
It just adds another layer of depth to the film. You really feel for them as they're facing this threat of losing their home.
absolutely. And that ties into, one of the bigger things that I think this film is really about. It's not just about these cute little robots. It's also about things like community and
Mhm.
gentrification,
Yeah,
which are issues that are still so relevant today.
absolutely.
Back in the 1980s when this film came out, urban renewal was displacing a lot of longtime residents.
Right.
And this film really captures that feeling of vulnerability and that fight to hold on to your home.
Yeah. And it's interesting how the fix-its themselves actually mirror the tenants in a way.
Oh, interesting.
If you think about it, all of the tenants are struggling. They're all kind of broken in their own ways. Right.
Right. And then you have these robots, these fix-its, who come in and they literally start fixing things.
Yeah.
But it's not just about the physical repairs, is it?
Right. Exactly. It's like each of the tenants is kind of reflected in one of the fix-its.
Yeah.
You've got Marisa, the pregnant artist, who's trying to kind of make it on her own. Then you've got Mason, the former boxer, whose dreams maybe haven't quite panned out.
Yeah.
And Harry, who's so withdrawn and isolated up in his apartment.
Right.
They're all facing these setbacks, and they all kind of feel lost or defeated in some way.
And the fix-its, they don't just come in and fix the appliances or patch up the building.
Right.
They bring about this kind of emotional repair too. Like, remember that scene where Frank is ready to give up
Hmm.
and then the fix-it brings him Faye's favorite plant?
Oh, yeah, that's such a beautiful scene. And
But
it's so subtle, but so powerful.
yes.
It's like the fix it is reminding Frank that there's still beauty and hope in their lives,
Yeah.
even in the midst of, all this chaos and uncertainty. Right. Exactly. It's that little spark of positivity, that nudge to remind us that things can get better.
Yeah.
It's a message about resilience, about the human spirit, and, finding a way to keep going even when things are tough.
I love that. And speaking of the fix-its, we have to talk about how they were brought to life. I mean, this was long before CGI was everywhere, right?
No, yeah.
So they used all these practical effects and miniatures and puppetry.
It's amazing. I mean, it's really a testament to the artistry and the ingenuity of the
Right.
filmmakers
Yeah.
because they didn't have all the fancy technology that we have now, but they still created these incredibly endearing and believable characters.
Yeah, and it's not just their design, it's their personalities. Each fix-it has these little quirks and behaviors that make them feel so real. you know?
You're right. It's like some are playful, some are curious, some even seem a little bit shy.
Yeah,
It's remarkable how much personality they manage to convey just through movements and expressions.
right. And it just adds to that overall charm of the film, don't you think? Because you've got these heavy themes. You know, you're dealing with eviction and dementia and the struggles of city life.
Hmm.
But then you have these adorable little robots zipping around, fixing things and bringing a smile to your face.
Exactly. And it's that contrast that makes it work, right? It
Yeah.
never feels overly sentimental or
Right.
saccharine because it's grounded in those real world
Yeah.
issues.
Yeah.
But the fix-its add that element of whimsy and hope that keeps it from being too bleak or depressing.
Yeah, it's like a modern fairy tale, but with that Spielberg twist.
Absolutely.
Now, we can't talk about batteries, not
Right.
included, without talking about the villain, Carlos.
Right.
He's this guy who's hired by the developers to basically harass the tenants. And at first, he seems like your typical bad guy.
Right. But even Carlos undergoes a transformation thanks to the fix-its.
Yes.
It's like they see something in him, some spark of goodness that even he doesn't recognize at first.
Yeah.
And through their interactions with him, they kind of help him to have a change of heart.
That's one of my favorite things about this film. It's that redemption arc. It's so powerful.
Yeah.
And it speaks to, one of the key messages of the film, which is the power of kindness and understanding.
Right.
That even someone like Carlos, who seems hardened and ruthless, can be touched by compassion.
It's a good reminder that people aren't always what they seem.
Yeah.
And that even those who appear to be bad can be redeemed.
Right. And it ties back to that idea of community that we were talking about earlier.
Absolutely.
The fix-its create this sense of unity, not just amongst the tenants, but even with someone like Carlos, who at first seems like an outsider.
It's like they expand that circle of community
Yes.
to
Yeah.
include even those who might seem like they don't belong.
And it's amazing how the tenants, despite their differences, really come together to protect their home.
They do.
They're like this unlikely band of heroes facing off against, these big, powerful developers.
It's like a classic underdog story, isn't it?
It is.
And the fix-its, in a way, they embody that spirit of community.
Yes.
They show us how even these small acts of kindness can have a ripple effect, It brings people together and creates this sense of hope. And it's not just about fixing, physical things. It's
is.
about, mending broken spirits and fostering connections.
And it's something we can all relate to, I think, that feeling of belonging, of knowing you're not alone in your struggles.
Absolutely. Especially in today's world where so many people feel isolated and disconnected. This film reminds us of how important it is to have that sense of community, to find those people who support you and lift you up.
Yeah, it's a really powerful message, and one that I think continues to resonate with audiences today.
Absolutely.
It's a timeless story. It's amazing, isn't it, how this movie transports us to another world, even though it's set in such a, relatable environment.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's that Spielberg touch, right? Like
Yeah.
he takes this, kind of rundown apartment building
Yeah.
and he just injects it with this sense of like wonder and possibility. Exactly. It's like magical realism almost, You have these very real elements, the peeling paint, the flickering lights, the, threat of demolition.
Right.
But then you have these whimsical, almost childlike robots flitting around. It's
Yeah.
like he's saying even in the most, ordinary parts of our lives, there's room for a little bit of magic.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that magic also comes through in the relationship between Frank and Faye Riley.
Oh, absolutely.
Hume Cronin and Jessica Tandy, bring so much tenderness and authenticity to their roles.
Yeah.
It's like you're really watching a real couple, with all of their ups and downs.
Yeah, you really feel like you're peering into their lives.
Yeah.
And it becomes even more poignant, I think, because Faye is dealing with dementia.
Yeah.
You can see Frank's devotion to her, his determination to care for her and preserve their life together.
Yeah.
Even as it's kind of slipping away, it's heartbreaking, but also incredibly beautiful.
It adds, so much depth to the film. It's not just about saving the building, right?
Right.
It's about preserving those human connections
Yeah.
and those little moments of love and shared history.
Exactly. And it's not just Frank and Faye who are struggling, right? Each character in this movie is going through their own challenges. Marisa, the artist, she's pregnant and unsure of the future. Mason, the boxer, grappling with unfulfilled dreams.
Right.
Harry, who's completely isolated from the world. They're all broken in their own ways,
Yeah.
just like the building that they inhabit.
It's like the building itself is this, metaphor for their lives in a way,
Yeah,
because it's, crumbling and neglected and threatened with demolition.
right.
And then these fix-its arrive, and it's like this symbol of hope,
Mm,
like a chance for renewal, not just for
yes.
the building, but for the people who live there.
And what I think is so fascinating is how the film uses the fix-its to really explore that idea of second chances. They represent this possibility that even when things seem irreparable, there's still that hope for restoration. It's like,
Yeah.
don't give up. There's still time to mend what's broken.
And they do it with such, like gentle humor and playful curiosity.
Hmm.
Like they're almost these, agents of change,
Yeah.
sort of nudging these characters toward a brighter future.
Yeah.
Like how one of the fix-its helps Marissa with her painting. Remember that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's like they intuitively understand what each person needs.
Right.
And they find these subtle ways to encourage and support them.
Yeah.
It's not just fixing things. It's about fostering growth and healing.
Yeah. It's amazing, how they brought these creatures to life.
It is.
I mean, we talked about the practical effects earlier, but I mean,
Yeah.
to create such expressive characters with just puppets and miniatures,
No.
it's really an art.
It's really incredible. And it reminds us that, technology can enhance storytelling,
Right.
but it's really that heart and soul behind those visuals
Yeah.
that really connects with an audience. And Batteries Not Included, that really comes through.
It does.
The characters feel real, their struggles resonate, and even the fix-its. Even though they're robots, they have so much personality and charm.
Yeah. It's funny. We haven't talked a lot about the visual style of the film.
Oh, that's true.
Spielberg, he really wanted that like whimsical, almost like storybook aesthetic.
He did.
I wonder if that's part of what makes the film so like enduring,
Oh, I think so. I mean, think about the use of color, like those warm, saturated hues,
Yeah.
like the golden light in Faye's kitchen.
Oh.
It's a subtle way of reinforcing that sense of hope and magic.
And the way he frames some of the shots, like the fix-its flying against the New York City skyline.
Yeah,
It gives you that sense of wonder, like anything is possible.
exactly. It's like he's inviting us to see the world through a child's eyes again,
Yeah.
to rediscover that sense of awe and possibility.
It's a good reminder that, even when things are tough, there's always room for a little magic.
Yeah,
And sometimes help can come from the most unexpected places.
that's right. And speaking of unexpected help, we should probably talk a little bit more about Carlos.
Yeah.
We touched on his transformation a bit,
Right.
but I think there's more to unpack there. It's more than just a bad guy turns good kind
Yeah,
of story.
right.
It's more complex than that.
Yeah, he's caught between a rock and a hard place, isn't he?
He is.
Like trying to make a living, but also wrestling with his conscience.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing is wrong,
Right.
but he feels trapped.
Yeah.
And the fix-its, they seem to sense that internal conflict within him.
Yeah.
They don't judge him. They don't shy away from him. They
Yeah.
treat him with that same kindness and curiosity
Right.
that they extend to everyone else. It's like they see the potential for good in him,
Yeah.
even when he can't see it himself.
And it's through their interactions that he
Mhm.
starts to change, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like they become these catalysts for his redemption.
Yes.
They show him that there's another way, a better way to live.
Yeah. And it's not a sudden miraculous change.
Right.
It's gradual. It's believable.
All right.
He starts to question his actions. He starts to feel empathy for the tenants.
Yeah.
And then there's that moment when he chooses to do the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really powerful.
It's a good reminder that, people can change.
Yeah.
Even those who seem, hardened or lost,
Mm-hmm.
they can still find their way back to compassion and empathy. It's interesting how Carlos's story kind of ties back into that whole theme of community.
It does.
We see the tenants coming together to support each other,
Right.
to fight for their home.
Yeah. It's that classic David and Goliath story.
It is.
This small group of people
Yeah.
taking on these powerful developers.
And they have some unexpected help.
That's right. From these little robots.
Nice little robots.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It adds a whole new dimension to that whole strength in numbers idea.
It really does.
The fix-its become this symbol of that collective spirit,
Yeah.
that even the tiniest actions can make a difference.
Right. And it's not just about fixing, physical things.
No.
The fix-its create this space where the tenants can really connect.
Yes.
They can open up to each other,
Mhm.
share their burdens, rediscover that connection.
Like how they helped Mason regain his confidence.
Yeah, exactly. or how they encourage Marisa and her art.
It's those little gestures that can make such a big impact.
Yeah, it's about that feeling of belonging,
Yeah.
knowing you're not alone.
Especially in today's world where so many people feel isolated.
Right, exactly.
This film really reminds us that we need each other,
Yeah.
that the greatest strength comes from community.
And, and the film doesn't shy away from showing how tough city life can be.
It doesn't.
That threat of eviction, the pressure of development,
It's all there.
it's all there.
But it never feels hopeless, does it? It doesn't.
There's this sense of hope,
Right.
optimism.
Yeah, it acknowledges the difficulties. But it also reminds us that there's always reasons to keep going.
Those little moments of humor, of kindness, those sparks of magic,
Yeah.
they remind us that even in tough times, there's always something to fight for.
And that's what makes this film so great, right? It's this balance.
Yes.
It speaks to our resilience, our compassion, our ability to find joy.
Even in the face of adversity.
Exactly. And it makes you think,
It does.
could something like the Fix-Its exist in our world?
It's a good question.
Maybe not, as cute robots,
Right.
but maybe in those everyday acts of kindness.
Yeah, those moments of connection.
Yeah.
The neighbor who helps you with groceries,
Yeah.
the stranger who offers a kind word.
Yeah. That friend who always makes you laugh.
Those little things can make a huge difference.
They can be like our own personal Fix-Its.
They can.
Right. Helping us to heal, to find hope, to remember that there's still magic in the world, even when it feels cold and impersonal.
So if you're looking for a film that'll warm your heart, spark your imagination, and remind you about love, community, and second chances.
Watch Batteries Not Included.
Barry's not included.
It's a classic.
It really is.
And who knows? Maybe it'll inspire you to find some Fix-Its of your own
That's a great point.
out in the world.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Yeah, it was fun.